So one of the reasons this stand is where it is because of this giant primary scrape that's always under this particular tree every year. I hunted this draw for a long time because there's so many other great things about it, and I've kind of settled on this primary scrape area because it's always in the same spot. Now what I mean by primary scrape is simply this: it's a scrape that is used year after year. It's generally going to be bigger, it's generally going to be inside the timber. It's not a field edge scrape that a buck might use one time or create and never come back to. This is a scrape that bucks will continually come back to, and multiple bucks and does will use it. It could generally get very big. This particular year, it's the size of the hood of my truck, and it's probably dug down close to 6 inches. This is a scrape that's getting hit multiple times every single day. One of the defining reasons of why we go into the spot this particular morning, we've got a giant primary in front of us. We know the bucks are hitting the scrapes. It's October 30th. Are you kidding? It does not get any better. I've got a slight north-northwest wind, which is perfect for this particular set, so I'm going in. And the one thing I would tell you, if you're hunting deep draws like this, you've got to hunt them in the mornings because you're going to get swirls. And one thing we have in the morning with a light breeze like this is our thermals are rising. As the air warms up, everything is rising up. The opposite happens in the afternoon. As the air cools, your scent's going to drop in there. That's why we stay out of these areas in the afternoon. But again, we're going in the morning. I feel very confident going into this set.
It's October 30th, the day before Halloween, and we've tucked down into just a tight little draw that we've got some pretty good history in over the years down here. First time in, best time, right? So I've got my extinguisher, my black rack if I need to coax one in. But we've got 4 scrapes, very active fresh scrapes, within 25 yards of the tree. We're gonna hang out and enjoy a gorgeous morning.
And not long after light, straight down out in front of me about 80 yards, I just catch the back of a doe cutting across the bottom. And it happens pretty quick. In my mind, I'm trying to figure out what just happened. And as that doe goes through the bottom there, she's got a quick step going and she's trying to get through there. And as I replay it in my mind, I see her hunch down. That doe is trying to get away from a buck. That's a scenario that my mind plays out for me. And so I immediately grab my extinguisher and I want to give a couple quick buck grunts. Now the reason I'm doing this is I don't see a buck behind her yet, and I'm hoping that there's enough separation in the thickness down there as she's got away from him. What I'm trying to do is create the scenario that another buck is in that draw and has picked her up. If that buck that's lost her hears the sound of those grunts that I'm making with the extinguisher, I'm hoping that he's going to key on that and go, wait, somebody's come in there and picked up my doe, because he can't see her anymore, and hopefully he's going to come at the sound of that calling thinking that buck is now on the doe he's been with. Out in front of me I see movement again, and here is a seemingly insignificant fawn walking down the draw. And while this isn't even a deer that we're concerned about at this point, we obviously don't want to spook her, but she ends up playing a pretty important part of this hunt. You notice as she gets closer and closer, all of a sudden her head snaps up. It lets me know immediately she's hearing something, she's smelling something, and it gives me reason to quickly turn my head and look, and as soon as I do,
Good buck right
here comes the buck I'm after down the hill.
See him? You got him.
This is what I was hoping was happening. This was the scenario I was hoping was played out that I was trying to interject myself into. And it's worked perfectly to this point. He's worked his way down the side hill of the draw, and now he's coming into the scrape. This big primary scrape that's 20 yards in front of me. He's coming into it. He wants to find out what is going on with what buck is trying to take his doe and how he needs to get back on it to get her back. I mean, he is just on a beeline right to that scrape. There's nothing slowing him down. And right as he gets to the bottom, just as he's getting to the point, a few more steps he's in the scrape, he sees this fawn. Now this is where you can really tell a mature buck, because a lot of times you can get away with an awful lot of things with say a 4-year-old and younger. But when you start talking about 6- and 7-year-old bucks, they're a way different animal. And this is a perfect example of it right here. This buck knows in his mind that another buck has picked up his doe. He's coming into the scrape to see what buck it is and which way they went. When he gets down there and sees a fawn just standing there, not a care in the world, that doesn't compute. That does not fit the scenario that's in his mind, and you can just immediately see him stop. His ears go forward. I mean, you can just kind of see this change in his demeanor that, okay, this isn't what I thought it was. And while he doesn't spook, he stands there for, what seems like minutes, which is really probably 20 to 30 seconds, and he's not going into that scrape now. He's not going any farther. As soon as his demeanor changes, I know plans have changed pretty quick. And the visions I have of shooting him broadside while he's working the scrape, they're long gone. Now I'm quickly doing ranges. I'm checking behind him, whether he turns around. I know he's not coming into the scrape, and I've got to make sure that I've got all my bases covered.
Here's that primary we were talking about. Look at the size of this scrape. That's what we set up for, and it was just ideal, perfect this morning. He's got big old, like fish hook kickers off the back of his brows. Really solid mass. Boy, he's a stud. Look at that big old head on him. Big old Roman nose humps right there. Look at that forehead. What an awesome, awesome whitetail.
A few things that obviously make this hunt happen on this particular morning. We're going into a deep draw that I have a lot of familiarity with. I've hunted it a lot of times, but it's also a place where I only go in the mornings, and this is a great example of that. While we've got the good wind, we also know our thermals are rising. So we're in good shape there. We do not have to worry about getting scented on this morning. Secondly, we've got a giant primary scrape in front of us. Now that scrape's going to be there, and those deer hit it pretty much all year. They're obviously peak hitting it right now this time of the year, but you can go in there and have success on that throughout the year. But again, time of the year, end of October, this is the peak time. Our cameras are telling us this. All the bucks are on the scrapes right now at some point or another. If you have the opportunity, set yourself up on a primary. You're going to give yourself the best chance there is to see multiple bucks during the daytime. And then the thing that pulls this hunt together in the end is the calling with the extinguisher. When I see that doe skirt across the bottom of that draw, slink across the bottom of that draw, her body language tells me that she's been getting bumped or chased by a buck and she's not wanting anything of it. She's trying to get away from him, and because of the thickness of the side hills on that draw, I know I've got a small window to call and hopefully turn him and create this scenario that another buck has picked up his doe. Lucky for me, that's exactly what was happening. I've got the best grunt call on the market in my hand. The rest plays out perfectly. The buck comes in, offers me a great shot.
Want to experience the same results you just witnessed? Use what the Deer Society experts use. The Extinguisher Deer Call and Black Rack Rattling System are the highest rated deer communication systems of all time, and less than 1% of deer hunters will have the opportunity to buy one this season. Get yours today at thedeersociety.com. Order now.